So he requested a continuance, and it was denied. So automatically from the door coming into the trial, Dr. York was placed at an enormous disadvantage because he had to cram in a year and a half worth of work in weeks.
See, the public don't know this. The judge called them in chamber and turned to Reverend York and said, I knew you were going to pull something like this. Why do you care? You're supposed to be an objective observer in a situation where he'll be tried by his peers. They made him go forward with the trial. Here's the trick the judge played. He said, I'm not going to let you release Manny Aurora. How you going to tell Dr. York? He's saying, I don't want this guy. This guy is not working in my best interest. The Constitution protects my right to legal counsel, who's obligated to fight on my behalf. This guy ain't got a witness ready 7 days before trial. He needs to go. The judge says no. And that was a game they played to not allow the continuance. Then as soon as the trial started, the judge allowed Manny Aurora off the case.
Witnesses who came forward to testify regarding the conspiracy involving Jake York, people who were on the trip to South Beach where the whole plot was formulated, people who lived in the house with Jake, who were a party to all these plans, weren't even allowed to testify because they knew if they testified, they're not even going to allow the conspiracy in because that's the key to the whole case. That blows the case wide open. That's something the media doesn't want anybody to know. The judges and the prosecution doesn't want anybody to know. That would have been blown wide open. They're not allowed to testify.
Jacob York was very upset at his father, and I know that's why he told the government that his father, was wrong and was molesting children so that he could obtain money from his father because he was out there doing illegal activities, illegal identification, birth certificates, or what have you. Also, he was a record producer, not a very good one because he's always having problems with his artists, but yet and still, he was upset with his father, which didn't make any sense. Unfortunately, his mother had passed, peace be with her, but he shouldn't have been mad at his father, Dr. Malachi Z because he had nothing to do with it.
The testimonies of the alleged victims was ridiculous. The lack of evidence. 8 out of 13 alleged victims in the indictment testified that nothing happened to them. 6 of the 7 who were said to have been molested currently during the time of the arrest of Dr. York testified for Dr. York. 5 of them were proven by state agencies and judge order to have been completely not abused in no way, shape, or form, physically, mentally, sexually. They testified on behalf of Dr. York. The lead prosecution witness recanted her story. What more did the world need to see that this man has been completely railroaded?
One of them is my sister, as a matter of fact. You know what I'm saying? Safat LaRoche. She made these accusations as well. You know what I'm saying? Against Dr. Malachi Z. Not only did I testify against her accusation, but also her mother testified against her accusations. And I spoke with her best friend at the time, who told me that she felt bad about saying these things. But later, like I said, she's the type of person who is easily influenced.
I mean, it was so bad when we're sitting and we were watching the trial was closed to the public. It was only, in terms of sitting in the actual gallery of the court, you could only watch from closed circuit television. We sat up there and saw.
So he had no support.
Yeah, he had no support. And you see government witness after witness. These people couldn't even keep their story straight. I mean, they were clearly lying. Clearly making up, can't remember the locations, dates, places. I mean, they couldn't even remember statements they had made to the FBI about this whole case. They were clearly lying. I mean, to sit there and watch it, that's why they wanted the courtroom closed. They don't want people to see the nonsense and the ridiculousness that they put up. It was a kangaroo court. The people were clearly lying. They couldn't keep things straight. I mean, it was really ridiculous to watch.
Salha Eddington, who is my cousin, was, after being abducted by defects, was taken into the custody of her father, who also testified against Malachi York, who influenced her to testify against Malachi York, because before that she used to communicate with me a lot. She used to call me at my house and she used to let me know what was going on in there and how they treated her. You know what I'm saying? And then one day I got a call thinking it was her, and it was the father on the line, and he said, you can't talk to her anymore. And that was the last time I spoke to her at that time. The next time I saw her was in Brunswick, Georgia, when she testified against Malachi York. You know, so they got to her eventually. So this whole thing was plotted and coerced by people who were disgruntled, and they were tools used.
So it's so many instances of where you saw the judicial bias from Judge Royal constantly blocking Attorney Patrick. Everything he puts up is denied, overruled. I mean, it was clearly, he's pointing out evidence that the prosecution needs to mention in the case. Why didn't you mention this? How can a judge sit there and coach the prosecution from the bench? And these are things that were happening throughout the trial that people don't know about, because subsequently the transcripts were sealed. So people couldn't even find out what actually happened. After the prosecution has maybe a week and a half of putting up witnesses, the judge rushes Attorney Patrick's witnesses, saying that they're repetitive and we don't have time, after it's been a week and a half of the prosecution witnesses. But now, oh no, we don't have time, too many of your witnesses are repetitive. So he showed a clear biasness against Dr. York. But despite that, Attorney Patrick still put on witness after witness of people who could attest to Dr. York's character, who could attest that none of this happened. All these so-called alleged victims who got up there and said, this did not happen to me. We even had Issa Johnson, who's supposedly supposed to testify on behalf of the prosecution, get up there and say nothing happened. So all these people who are in the indictment are saying nothing happened. How are they getting guilty counts, getting guilty on counts pertaining to people who were there who said nothing happened? They said it didn't happen. So why are you getting a guilty verdict on people who said this didn't happen to me?
I went to the trial and I seen it. They never produced any evidence. Don't believe me? Check it out. You will find out there isn't a shred of physical evidence against Dr. Malachi Z. York to this day. Not a doctor's examination, not a picture of the act, not any videotapes of the act, not any DNA samples that were used or presented as evidence during trial. Nothing. Not even a testimony that he did it but destroyed the sheets every time or something. Nothing. Nothing. Judge C. Ashley Royal stood up, recharged the jury, and sent them back in to deliberate. So this jury was never presented any sound evidence that proved that Dr. Malachi Z. York was a criminal, and that the Nuwaubian organization is a corrupt organization dubbed a criminal enterprise that warranted the RICO charge.
Miraculously, because of the help of people who did research, who worked on the case, Attorney Patrick still won the case. He won the trial in terms of presenting the facts of the case. It got pulled off because of the work of members of the organization, people who have been researching, who pulled it off. But to be placed in that position legally, he was automatically placed at a disadvantage that wasn't fair to Dr. York.
A young lady named Habiba Washington